Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today, checking out another ultrasonic record cleaner from Vevor. This time, I'm giving you the opportunity to win one. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So several months ago on the channel here, I reviewed an ultrasonic record cleaner from Vevor, and I'd never used one before, so I was a complete novice to the process and to the machinery. The only thing I'd ever used to clean my records before was just the hand brush from Groove Washer, which works really well, but I was looking for something new. So Vevor reached out to me. They're like, hey, would you like to check out this cleaner? And not only was it easy to set up, I was absolutely thrilled with the results I got. The thing that's really kept me from buying an ultrasonic record cleaner before was the price, because a lot of them run, $500-600 plus, where the one from Vevor, I think, was right around $200 when I reviewed it. At this point, I've cleaned well over 100 records with it, and even comparing things I've cleaned with the ultrasonic cleaner to what I've cleaned with the brush from Groove Washer does a really good job, but the ultrasonic cleaner does just a little bit better of a job overall, and you can clean multiple records at once, whereas with the Groove Washer, or really any other kind of manual system, it's just one record at a time. One of the things I figured out after doing that review was, cleaning 8 records at a time, it didn't do quite as good of a job as if you were just to clean maybe 3 or 4. And I don't know if that has to do with like the spacing of the records or the cavitation and the fluid in the basin, but I found just cleaning fewer records at instead of doing like a 30-minute cycle, doing a 15-minute cycle actually gave me a little better result. And then recently, Vevor reached out to me and they said, we actually have a smaller record cleaner we'd love for you to check out. And instead of the 8 record capacity of the other one, this one only has like a 3 or 4 record capacity. I jumped at the opportunity. I thought, this might be something that some of my viewers would be really interested in checking out. I'll put links down below for their website, all their links on social media. I'm going to give you the opportunity to win one of these. So I'm going to open this thing up, go over all the setup on it, give you my review of it, and give you some of the tips that I have learned using one of these over the last several months. But if you're interested in winning one of these Vevor ultrasonic record cleaners, it's really easy. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel and drop a comment down below, and then come back in a couple weeks on April 10th, which is 2 days before Record Store Day, and I'm going to draw a winner. But just keep in mind that there's always scams when it comes to these kind of contests on YouTube. I'm never going to contact anyone in the chat or in the comment section and tell them they won. Don't give any kind of information. The only way that the winner is going to be announced is on my Thursday video, April 10th. And like always, when I do these reviews on my channel, the opinions I state are mine and mine alone. I'm always going to give you my 100% honest opinion. So with the ultrasonic cleaner, there's a couple other things you're going to need other than the cleaner. One thing you're going to need is some distilled water. You never want to use tap water or spring water or anything like that, because sometimes they can have some minerals and some other chemicals or debris in there that you really don't want on your records or getting in the grooves of the records. So always make sure you use distilled water, and then you'll want to use some kind of cleaning chemical. So there are some recipes online you can use. I use this ultrasonic cleaner from Groove Washer. You use 10 drops of this in each gallon. And also the other thing I've realized is, because it can get pretty expensive if you're going through a lot of distilled water. So I've actually been reusing the distilled water. When I'm done cleaning records, I will empty the basin back into these jugs. But I always make sure I leave a little bit of the water inside the basin of this and empty that out, because I notice that a lot of the debris and dirt stays in the bottom. So I won't put that back in the jug. I'll just empty that out. And then when I notice the distilled water getting dirty, that's when I'll replace the water. As far as assembly, there shouldn't be a whole lot to this. At least there wasn't with the other one that I reviewed. Most of it should just be in the box here. Go ahead and take the styrofoam out. So just like the other Vevor cleaner I reviewed on the channel, this also does come with a drying rack. It took me a little bit of time, probably a little bit more time than I should have, to put this thing together, but It works great. This is a great added bonus to have with the cleaner. I did have to use a record for my collection to kind of figure out the proper spacing for the arms on this rack, but it works great. So one thing I noticed right away that's different between this one and the other one that I reviewed is my other cleaner has a digital control panel where these are just knobs. So I'll have to read the instructions and see if there's a difference in the recommended temperature or time with this cleaner. So what is included in this? Like I said, there's really no assembly to this. You do have a power cord for the cleaner itself. This is a drain line. So that's what I use to drain the distilled water from the basin back into the jugs. There's a spout here on the side that this will connect to. It does come with spacers for the cleaner here. Like I said, I think this does up to 4 albums. The other one does up to 8, but I think I only cleaned 8 records just a couple of times. Once I realized that, 2 to 4 was probably a better, got a better clean than doing 8 at a time, that's when I kind of reduced those. So you can only do, the spacers give you the opportunity to do up to 4 at a time. And then this is the motor that the spindle attaches to. So I'll get this all connected and show you how this thing gets set up. There's also a power cord for the motor here. So you will need 2 outlets, one for the cleaner itself and one for the motor. And then this also gives you the opportunity, if you want to clean like rings and things like that, smaller items, it does come with a small basket that you can put in the basin here and clean smaller items also. And you will need a Phillips screwdriver because the way this spindle attaches to the motor is just one screw up here on top. So one thing I noticed right away about these spacers when I used it on the other ultrasonic cleaner is you really need to make sure you're tightening up the nut on the front of the spindle to make sure you're getting enough pressure, because what these are doing, these are protecting the labels on the record. So if you don't get enough pressure, some of the water can leak behind these spacers and potentially ruin the label. I have not had an issue with that. I have had a couple records with the label get a little wet, but it hasn't caused any damage to the label. It can potentially do that though, and if you're really concerned with it, you can always upgrade these. If you go on Amazon, there is a link on the Vinyl Den Amazon page where there's an upgraded version of these spacers with like a rubber washer around the edge of it. If you're really concerned with it, you can always upgrade to something like that. The other difference I noticed between this model and the older model is the older model had a screw on here on the back of the motor that would tighten it to the side of the basin. This does not. This just slides over the side of it here. But when I slide it on there, it does fit very snug on there. I don't see any kind of issue. It doesn't feel like it's going to move around really at all. The other thing that I did with my other ultrasonic cleaner is you need to be really careful of the clearance of the records on the side of the basin. So once I figured out where exactly it needed to be in the center of it, I took a black permanent marker and made a mark on each side of the basin so I knew exactly where to put the motor every time. The instructions for this cleaner weren't very clear. I didn't really notice a recommended temperature or time. So basing it off of my other cleaner from the same company, I'm going to set it at 40 degrees. The recommended time on the other cleaner was 30 minutes. 30 minutes is way too long. You don't need to clean it for more than, say, 10 to 15 minutes tops. I've tried it at 10 to 15 minutes. I've also tried it at 30 minutes. You're not really getting any better of a clean at 30 minutes than you are at 10 to 15. So 10 to 15 minutes is perfect. I will set it at 40 degrees. The other thing I noticed is, or what I started to do with my other cleaner, is I'll let this fully warm up before I try to clean the records. It gets a better overall clean that way. Another thing I noticed about this cleaner compared to the other one is the older version had an on-off switch on the motor, whereas this one, as soon as you plug it in, the motor starts up. So also kind of keep that in mind when using it. And here's that drying rack all put together. And once you're done, you just set your records in there. It does a great job. Like I said before, I think this is a really great added bonus to this cleaner. The other thing you always want to do is make sure you fill it up with water before you turn the cleaner on. You don't want to heat this up without water in it because it can damage the cleaner. Just like any other product you buy, always make sure you read the instructions and understand all the precautions with it. And there's not a very clear like max fill line in here, but there is a groove just inside the basin here, and that's what I fill it up to. I just fill it up to that line. And if I need to, I'll add a little bit more water to it. So what happens is once I put the record on, I'll make sure that the water is coming up to just to the run out groove. You don't really want to overfill it, and you really don't want to underfill it. So now that I got this thing up to a pretty decent temperature, I'm going to go ahead and load the records on here. I do have 4 used records that I picked up for pretty cheap. I just never got around to cleaning. Got the Cara self-titled album. Got Photographs and Memories by Jim Croce. Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And then Permanent Vacation by Aerosmith. Some of these aren't too bad. Some of them are pretty dirty. I'll load these up and we'll see how good this cleaner can clean them up. When I put the first record on there, I noticed that it was just over a tiny bit closer to one side. So I had to adjust the motor on the back of it just to kind of make sure you got clearance on both sides so the records aren't scraping against the side of the basin. So the thing I noticed right away is there's this spacer that goes on the front of the spindle. The spacer is so big that you can't actually fit 4 records onto the spindle. I can only fit 3. So let me put this nut on the front of this thing and we'll fire this thing up. And like I said earlier, you want to make sure that's nice and snug on there so your water is not leaking between the spacer and the label on your album. So I'm going to turn this thing on and do a 15-minute cycle. Once it's over, I'll come back and let you know what I think of it. So now that we've reached the end of the 15-minute cycle, I'll go ahead and unplug this so the motor will stop. The one thing I noticed right away is this thing is a little noisy, but the other Vevor cleaner I have also is. What I ended up doing with my other cleaner is I took a towel and put a towel underneath the basin, and that way it kind of dampens some of the sound from it. All right, so we'll go ahead and take these records off of here, and I'll put them in the drying rack, let them dry for a little bit, and I'll let you know what I think. So overall, I thought this thing did an incredible job. You know, it is smaller, it is more compact. You can only clean a couple records through it, but the ones I ran through there definitely had fewer pops and clicks after the cleaning cycle than what they did before, even at a shorter 15-minute cycle. So comparing this one to the older version, I actually prefer the older version a little bit more, mainly just because I like the digital display on the other one. Even though this one is easy to use, you just kind of turn it to whatever you want, and it works just fine. I don't have any issues with it. It's just one of those small kind of things that I noticed a little bit of a difference in. Also, they advertise this as being able to clean 4 records at a time, but because that spacer that's used, you can't quite fit 4 on there. I can only fit 3 on there, but I'm sure if you wanted to clean 4, you could. You just have to trim that down a little bit. But I think a lot of people out there, 2 or 3 records tops is going to be mainly what they're cleaning at a time, so it's not going to be that big of an issue, cleaning 3 versus 4 albums. So in the first video I did for the Vevor record cleaner, there were several comments talking about how the records were spinning too fast on the spindle and how it would actually clean a little bit better if they spun a little slower. But it's something that's really easy to solve. All you need to do is get an adjustable voltage power supply for the motor and just turn down the voltage and it'll spin at a slower rate. Actually, if you go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon, I actually have an adjustable power supply on there. So I think slowing down the speed will give even better results than what I'm getting so far. So if you're interested in checking one of these out, I'm going to put links down below to Vevor's website. I want to say this thing is like $125 to $135 online, which I think is a great price, especially if you're comparing that to say like the Humming Guru, which I think is like well over $500, or some of those the bigger cleaners that are available. At a little over $100, I think this is going to give you great results. I still do use my groove washer if I'm just going to clean 1 or 2 albums, but anything more than that, I'm just going to run through the ultrasonic cleaner. I think it's the easier way to go. So like I said earlier, if you want to win one of these, it's really easy. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel here and drop a comment down below, and I'm going to come back on April 10th and announce a winner. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this Vevor record cleaner. Have you used one before? Are you interested in winning one of them? Let me know what you guys think. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.